All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to talk about a really powerful blueprint for building software that can actually stand the test of time. It's an idea called clean architecture, and it's all about making systems that are just, well, easier to live with, easy to understand, easy to test, and way easier to change down the road.
So, let's start with a question every single one of us has probably asked. Have you ever kicked off a brand new project and everything feels amazing? The code is clean, it's organized, it's beautiful, but then you come back 6 months later and it's a house of cards. A tangled web where you're afraid to touch anything because you might break everything. So, what gives? Why does this always seem to happen?
Well, this tangled up mess has a name, and it's pretty fitting. The software spaghetti problem. It's what happens when every part of your application is just hopelessly intertwined with every other part. Your core business logic gets mixed in with your database code, which gets tangled up with your user interface. It's a mess.
Okay, so to untangle this spaghetti, we first have to get to the root of the problem. And it really all boils down to one single super important concept in software: dependency.
So what is a dependency? It's actually super simple. Let's say your user profile screen directly uses a class to talk to a specific database. Well, that means the screen depends on that database class. And if that database class changes, guess what? You're probably going to have to change your screen code too. They're stuck together. Now, here's the thing. Dependencies themselves aren't evil. You can't avoid them. Your application has to talk to a database. It has to have a user interface. The real problem, the thing that creates all the spaghetti, is when your important core logic depends directly on unstable things, on the details. Things like a specific brand of database or a particular web framework. Those things change all the time, and when they do, they drag your core logic down with them. So, what's the secret? How do we break this cycle? The solution is this really powerful idea that kind of flips our usual way of thinking completely upside down. It's called the dependency inversion principle, and it's a total game changer. So take a look at this. On the left, you've got the common mistake, the wrong way. Your high-level business logic is directly tied to a low-level detail, like a database. This makes your system rigid and fragile. But on the right, now this is the smart way, we stick an abstraction. You can think of it as a contract or a set of rules right in the middle. Now, both your business logic and the database depend on this middleman, this interface, instead of depending on each other. It's a buffer. You know what? There's a perfect real-world example of this we all use every single day. Think about your phone charger. Your phone doesn't care if you plug in a charger from Samsung or Google or some random brand you found online. And the charger doesn't care what phone is charging. Why? Because they both agreed to play by the same rules, the shared USB-C standard. That standard is the interface. It completely decouples the phone from the charger, so you can mix and match them however you want. So this idea of using interfaces as these buffers, it leads us to the famous diagram at the heart of clean architecture. It's often visualized as an onion, where we build our code in these nice, distinct layers. At the absolute center, the very heart of the onion, you have your entities. These are the pure business objects of your system. Think customer, product, account. They hold the most fundamental business rules. And here's the key. They know absolutely nothing about technology. No databases, no web servers, just pure business. Okay, so one layer out from the core, we have the use cases. These are the specific actions your application can do, like create a new user or process a refund. They act like choreographers, telling the entities what to do, but they still have no idea what a database is or what a web page looks like.
And finally, way out on the fringes, in the outer layers of the onion, that's where we put all the messy stuff. This is where the technology lives. Your SQL database, your web framework, your mobile app's user interface, they're all out here. They are just plugins to your core application.
Now, this whole beautiful onion structure only works if you follow one single rule. It's the golden rule, the law of the land, the one thing you absolutely cannot break. All dependencies must point inwards. What does that actually mean? It means your core business logic, your entities, and use cases must be blissfully unaware of the outside world. The database has to depend on the business rules, not the other way around. The user interface has to depend on the business rules, not the other way around. This is the secret sauce.
Okay, theory is great, right? But what does this actually look like when the rubber meets the road? Let's take a look at a super simple example of an ATM application to make this more concrete.
In a real project, you can actually see this architecture right in your code's folder structure. Check out this table. Each layer of our onion maps directly to its own separate project. You've got many ATM.entities at the core, then use cases, and so on. But here's what's so powerful about this. It's not just a friendly suggestion. It's physically enforced. The Entities project has no reference to the infrastructure project. That means it is literally impossible for a developer to accidentally make the core business logic depend on a database. The compiler just won't let you do it.
So we do all this work, right? We separate everything into these neat layers, we manage our dependencies. Why? What's the big payoff at the end of a day?
It all comes down to one incredibly powerful word: freedom.
You get freedom from being locked into the details. What if you decide you need to switch your database from SQL Server to something totally different? In this architecture, it's not a big deal. You just write a new implementation in that outer layer. Your core business logic doesn't have to change one bit. This makes your whole system incredibly flexible, way easier to test, and just a lot less scary to work on.
So if you remember one thing from all of this, let it be this: your business logic, your rules. That's the valuable asset. That's the stable core of your system. Everything else, the database, the web framework, the UI, they're just details. They should be treated like plugins you can swap in and out, not like the foundation of the whole building.
And that leaves us with a final thought. I want you to think about the projects you're working on right now. What's the one technical detail, that one database, that one framework, that one UI technology that you wish you could just easily change tomorrow? Because clean architecture is the blueprint that could have given you that freedom.